Hi everyone, I'm Craig Dyer, Training Director with Christianity Explored Ministries. I normally spend my life travelling around the world, encouraging people to love and live and tell the good news of the Lord Jesus. But as you can see, I'm speaking to you now from no less exotic a location than our spare room. Because like you, like all of the UK, and at this point, also about a third of the world's population, we're in lockdown. Perhaps you saw the video clip of a Skype conversation, a Zoom conversation that Glenn Scrivener pulled together last week. A few of us got together just to kick around the idea of what can we do in terms of evangelism in these extraordinary days. Personally, I'm very encouraged by what the Apostle Paul said in 2 Timothy chapter 2. Do you remember in verse 9 when he talks about being chained for the gospel? Although he was physically locked down, he goes on to say, but the word of God is not bound. What an encouragement. What do we do with that? How do we act in these days knowing that that is true, and yet at the same time being wise in the way that we act towards outsiders? There's a balance there to be struck. And then we began to hear exciting stories about some church families who'd begun to put Christianity Explored online. And we thought you might be interested to hear a little bit about what they'd done. And so we got a few of them together, and I'd love to introduce them to you just now. You can hear about their experience, how they got it set up, how it's been going for them, and then perhaps we'll give you a few pointers in terms of how to get started if you're interested in doing that. First of all, I want to introduce you to Ian Miller. He's the curate at St Mary's Maidenhead, one of the pastors there on the team. Good morning to you, Ian.
Morning, Craig.
The weather looks good in Maidenhead this morning.
Oh, it's not bad. Yeah.
Not bad. Yeah, very good. It looks bright and sunny. I'm sure it always is there on the banks of the Thames. And then further east along the Thames, we travel along to speak to Merv and Kissoon, who's a second-year apprentice at St Helen's Bishopsgate on the staff team there, and also studying at Cornhill. Good morning to you, Merv.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Great to see you today. And then we're going to shoot acutely north, and it's great to welcome Paul Brennan, who is the pastor of the Tron Church in Kelvingrove in the fair city of Glasgow, where I am this morning. Good morning to you, Paul.
Morning, Craig. Good to see you.
It's great to have you guys. So it's like a game of tennis doubles. We've got two in Glasgow and two in Greater London, kind of thing. If Maidenhead is willing to be considered as certainly the southeast, shall we say? Well, let's begin just by getting a feel for the status of your course at the moment. Paul, you're just about to begin this Sunday evening, is that correct?
Yep, so we are starting our first online Christian Explored on Sunday evening, so 7:30 on Sunday night. We're giving it a go, so we're excited to see what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And you've been running it for years up there in the Tron.
Yeah, we've been doing Christian Explored for, I don't know, at least 12 years, probably more than that. So the congregation is familiar with the course, they've got confidence in it.
Yeah.
And it's something that we've been used to doing, but never online. So this is a first for us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's marvelous. Now, Merv, coming to you, you have taken the plunge already. Tell us about that. When did you start?
Yeah, thanks. We started actually on Wednesday evening at 7:00. So we've completed week one, and it was really encouraging. And we've been doing the course for more than 10 years as well.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Amazing. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic to hear. Now, Ian, coming to you, your situation is a little bit different. Can you paint the background in terms of how you find yourself now doing Christianity Explored online?
We had a real lives mission at the end of February with Glenn Scrivener, and started a Christianity Explored course straight after that. And we got to week 3, and it became apparent that we were going to have to stop because of the lockdown. Yeah. And that evening, week 3, we thought, well, what are we going to do? We're obviously going to have to stop the course. So instead of just doing the topic that was for that evening, which was sin. We did sin and the cross in one evening, and then we talked about grace, and then we prayed the prayer at the end. And actually, we were so keen that people should hear the gospel, not least because you don't know who's going to. Some of the people were vulnerable, and we wondered whether some of them were actually going to get through the whole crisis. So it was wonderful to pray the prayer at the end and actually see somebody responding to that. And we thought that was it. That was the end of the course. But then I heard of Zoom for the first time. It seems extraordinary that that's only 2.5 weeks ago. And thought, well, actually, we can pick it up again on Zoom. And so we did that for the first time this Monday, and we had a really great evening. We actually went back to do sin again. Everybody was happy to go back and do some of the stuff that we'd done 2.5 weeks ago. But we had a really good meeting.
Oh, that's a fantastic introduction there. So the show must go on, and you decided you were going to take it online. Now, you used that phrase there. We said we'd go with Zoom, and it is a remarkable platform. But Merv, how did you begin with the technicalities? What was the setup at St. Helens? How do we help others to begin to think about the possibility of doing this?
I think first and foremost, I am definitely not technically proficient, so that's the first thing. We found Zoom really super easy to use. We'd already had a little bit of experience of it through Cornhill as well. And we found it, so in terms of technically, we wanted to create a very, very simple link for our guests to just click on, and then they could get access to our platform. We also wanted to practice and do almost like a bit of a dress rehearsal just before, the night before, or a couple of days before, just so our leaders will understand what's going on, and we could get some further thoughts on that.
Amazing. Now I'll come back to you. That's some very interesting stuff there. Paul, you're probably just still in the throes of final preparations. Have you downloaded Zoom? Have you got it on the computer? Are you set to go? I mean, where are you with this?
Yeah, so I think as with many churches around the UK, we have had a steep learning curve with Zoom. Yeah. So we've had various meetings over the last few weeks. Our growth groups were all using Zoom. We did our prayer meeting the other night with Zoom. So not myself personally, but we've got folk around who have built up a bit of expertise in how to use Zoom. So it was the obvious platform to use, and folk in the church, I think a lot of other people are getting familiar with the platform. So we, as Merv has suggested, we're going to have a little run through on Saturday afternoon beforehand, just to make sure everything's okay and all the leaders are up to speed with how it works.
That's great.
So it seems fairly straightforward to use.
Yeah, good. And Ian, did you have help there? Were there folks on the team who were quite proficient with Zoom?
One of my colleagues had produced a document which was a noddy guide to Zoom. It had sort of various YouTube things you could watch to show you how to download Zoom and how to navigate it and how to use it well. So he produced a guide, which has been really helpful. But I think one of the things that really struck me was setting the course up was how many people now really are proficient with it. So with one exception, we found it very easy. People just logged in. So that was
brilliant.
That was really helpful.
Yesterday I was talking to one of my colleagues at CEM, Robin Turton, who just loves the gospel and is one of the most experienced end users of Christianity Explored, certainly in Scotland. And he was saying, I would love to do this online, but I'm not proficient and so on. And really, none of us is. But I was saying to him, well, there might be somebody who's got the other half of that discussion. They would love to do this. They've got the technical skills, but they don't have the experience in running CE. And I think a big part of the message is have a chat within the church family. You might find someone who's got a huge evangelistic heart, who has got the technical ability to sort of manage the thing for you, and help you to bring your experience to it. And so we would love that kind of thing to happen. I think there's potential for that. Is that right?
I think that's right. You can. All you need to do is find somebody who's confident at hosting.
Yeah.
So you don't. The person who's leading the course or speaking or doesn't have to be competent at using Zoom. If somebody else in the congregation or the church family is a competent host and they know what you want to achieve, they can do that work for you.
That's brilliant. That's a great message. It's encouraging for people. Now, Merv, I gather that you at St. Helens elected to do live talks instead of the films. Can you tell us a little bit about the thinking behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. So over the last few years, we've elected we've decided to go for live talks, and because of that, we realised that there needed to be a contingency plan. For example, if the technology didn't work on the evening, so we made sure that our speaker Chris was able to pre-record the talks beforehand, and each of the leaders would have an example, would have that talk ready to play on Zoom. So that was definitely one of the benefits of that as well.
Great. Fantastic. Paul, are you going with live talk or planning to use the videos?
At the minute, we're thinking live talk, but that's one of the things we'll just finalize tomorrow at our sort of pre-meeting. We might have the live talks as a backup in case the chap who's going to be giving the talk, if his internet goes down or whatever, then the host could jump in with the video. So we'll have a play around tomorrow and just see what works best. We're planning at the minute to go live, but we may use the videos.
Is part of the attraction of that the fact that you don't have to begin sharing screen and so on, or is it more you think it's more intimate, it's more personal to use the live talk medium?
I think that's our thinking at the moment. When we play around with things tomorrow on Zoom, we may find that the video actually comes across better. So we're going to make a decision on that tomorrow afternoon. But my assumption would be that having somebody there giving a live talk is probably going to be a bit more intimate, as you say.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for that information, guys. Well, Ian, let's ask you. You started with the physical course and all the social dynamics of that, and then you thought that it had to end, and you did that amazing concertina effect of the gospel to get it out there, which shows such a heart for the people there. But now you're back online. You've had 1 week doing CE. Which week was that, and how did it go? What are your early impressions?
It went really well. It was wonderful. We followed exactly the same format as we would have done had we been meeting physically. Although obviously we didn't have a meal together. So we started off with the time of Bible study. We actually did week 3, so we were looking at the paralyzed man in Mark chapter 2. And again, the study worked really well. I felt everyone could contribute. People were diving in with questions. We then we watched Rico's video, and I was able to do that by sharing. Again, that worked well. Just one small thing that I would do differently. Again, I would just explain to everybody that I'm going to mute them all before going onto the video. I didn't do that. And I had to interrupt the video because one person was making quite a lot of noise and it was getting a bit disruptive. But that didn't matter, actually. It really didn't affect it too much. But again, I would do it next time and explain what I'm doing. And then after the video, we had a good conversation. We talked about some pretty tough issues. We were in Mark chapter 9. Jesus is talking about hell, and that whole session is a tough session.
It is.
And yet I thought it was, went really well. I think people really engaged, and there was a clear keenness to meet up again next week in the same way. So I was really heartened by it.
That's great. Which night are you doing it, Ian?
We're doing it on Monday evening.
Monday evening. Great. And just to say on that, I mean, it's amazing how helpful for those who've not experimented with Zoom, this idea of being able to mute everybody, and then they can put up an electronic hand and then you know, if you have I guess if you're 5 or 6, you can all be talking like we are now, and there's no big problem. But if it's a bigger group than that, there are ways of managing it very helpfully. And people can indicate that they have a question they want to ask or a point they want to make. You can bring them in. You can unmute everybody. You can remute them. You can even put them into smaller groups and appoint leaders over the groups. So it's a fantastically helpful platform in that regard. Merv, coming to you, Wednesday night at St. Helens, looking back, how did it go?
Yeah, it was a hugely encouraging time. Chris gave a great talk on the greatest news ever. So we were in Mark 1 to 15 for the majority of the time, and so we were looking at the identity of Jesus as well, who he is. Yeah, it was a hugely encouraging time. And just off the back of what you were saying, sorry, about breakout rooms, we found that enormously helpful in terms of having more intimate discussion time. So that was what we found really, really helpful. We also found that it was quite intentional in terms of our conversations. Often you might find in something like Zoom, a format like Zoom, you might be able to, people might feel anonymous. But actually, when people are in breakout rooms, they didn't feel as anonymous. So it was great.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, it would be great to, at some point, check in with you again and see how the courses are going. And maybe people will watch this and will be praying for you. And it would be lovely to hear about others who are engaging with this. And we'll see more about that, how you can let us know if you're interested in doing that later on. Just as we round up now, Paul, anything that you'd say is a top tip if someone's inspired to have a go at this? What would you say as we just have a chance to give our parting shot?
I think give it a go, and I think also you don't need a huge lead up time. We decided to run it a week ago, so last Friday we decided we're going to go with this. So we gave ourselves 2 Sunday morning live stream services to push it. At our prayer meeting last week, and we've seen low numbers over the last few years with Christianity Explored, but this is our biggest course by a long way.
Wow.
We've got 14 signed up at the moment, and there'll probably be a few more coming over the next few days. So we didn't need a long lead up time. So I think if you're going to do it, because people are at home, time seems to move in quite slowly. A lot can happen in a week.
Yes.
So I think you don't need a huge run up. I think you can run it quite quickly.
Very good. How did you recruit? I mean, what was your strategy for recruitment?
So usual sort of channels on a Sunday. Announced it at the live stream last Sunday morning. We're putting out at the moment a sort of daily email. In the past, we've done weekly emails, but we just found with the rate at which things were happening with government advice and changes to our meetings, we had to move to like a daily email update to the church family. So within that, we've been putting information about how to book, and we've put it through Facebook. We've done some paid advertising on Facebook. It's not too expensive, but that's reached a lot of people.
Great. So is this church members bringing friends?
I think it's a combination of church people inviting friends, but also people picking up on social media and booking that way. So there's a few folk I'm just not quite sure where they've come from. So I think they're probably folk who've booked from seeing it on Facebook.
Fantastic. Ian, you had a pre-existing group, I guess, and that I take it that was how you recruited. You just went back to them and said we can still meet.
Yes, that's right. That's how we did it with them. But we always keep a list going at any time of people who might be interested in Christianity Explored and are always looking towards the next course. We're planning another course after Easter. We may end up actually with 2 running concurrently. But yeah, recruitment is through church family. through people who are already on the list, who've expressed interest at Real Lives but couldn't do the last one. And I'm interested to hear Paul talking about Facebook. That's certainly something we're keen to do, which is perhaps a bit more targeted advertising, just sort of going out there with it and saying, this is going on because people have got big questions at the moment.
And they're stuck at home bored, and you're stuck at home bored, and why don't we get together? Yeah, exactly. Merv, how was it? How was recruitment at St Helens?
Yeah, so we went through the regular channels as Paul and Ian have just said. We also did we created an online video invite as well. So just in the comfort of our own home, we just created a video and personally invited people, and we shared that video round. And it was really exciting. Similar to the other guys, we have had the most amount of sign-ups that we've ever had. So people are certainly interested and really, really willing to find out more.
So that was a personal invitation by email or direct message kind of thing to friends.
Yeah, we just recorded a video actually of myself and two others personally inviting people to the course, and it was shared on Facebook. It was shared via email, just for a Vimeo link. So
fantastic. That's great, fellas. It's been so helpful. Thank you so much for your time today, and we pray the Lord really blesses your work, your efforts in this, and as others join, wouldn't it be wonderful if this rather strange season that we're all living through proved to be one where the seed was sown and produced a harvest, an abundant harvest, 100 times more than what was actually sown on the day.